Hey everybody, Anthony Alfredo here. We're back with episode 4 of iRacing for Beginners. Today we're going to talk about some of the graphic settings in iRacing, as well as the drive settings and other options you have while in sim. You can see I'm already in sim. I've hit spacebar, so I'm hiding the header and footer on the sim page, but if we just click or hit spacebar, it pops back up. There's our camera settings from the last video we spoke about, but today we're going to focus on these two right here. First, we're going to go to the options. Now, this is where you've already calibrated all of the inputs for your equipment, your steering wheel, your pedals. You have some other buttons, like you could program hotkeys for towing the car, which is the same as hitting escape when you come to a stop. Look left or right, up and down. You have some wheel range and map range. I haven't touched those since I calibrated my wheel, so that's pretty much the basics of that. It's going to stay where that is. Force feedback enabled. I have an actual third-party system for my wheelbase that I'm using to customize the feel, which is why a lot of this is kind of blanked out because it's being overridden. When it comes to driver's view, as your field of view, we talked about adjusting with the brackets on your keyboard, driver height, shift horizon, it's actually looking up and down. All of those can be found in the black box while driving. So if you're wondering what those look like, the black box is actually something that pops up in the bottom right of your screen right here. And you can see that we're on the relative tab here, but if you use your F keys, F1 is that lap timing page. If you hit the same key twice, it makes the black boxes go away. Quick note, you can actually move all of these, this pit lane sign, your mirror, your inputs in the bottom left, all those things you're seeing by hitting Alt K. So if we hit Alt K, you can see it's blue, and now we can drag and drop and move things around. I'm going to hit it again because I don't want to adjust my current settings. But if we go F2, that's standings, F3 relative, F4 fuel, F5 tires, F6 tire info, F7 pit stop adjustments, F8 we have brake bias adjustments. F9, we have our graphics. So that's what we were talking about earlier, shift horizon. So you can see a line in the center of your screen. I just try to go till my eyes are in line with that, or I feel like my viewpoint is how it would be in a real car. In this case, my real race car, because I want to be as immersed as possible and try to be in the right place. FOV, same as using the brackets as I mentioned. Driver height, you can even adjust there. And your mirror FOV. If you hit F10, you have your radio settings. You can click on them to unmute or mute. F11 and 12 do nothing. I forgot. There is no more. So if we go back to F1, that's our lap timing key right there. We'll exit the car once again, and we'll go back to our options. So we discussed those black boxes and some of those settings. Driving aids, I like to run anti-stall clutch, so I don't even have to use my clutch. It's really helpful if you're in a race and you spin out. If the car stalls out, it could be a pain to get cranked back up and rolling again. Obviously, it's a feature we don't have in real life, but on iRacing, it can help you on and off pit road and things of that nature. You can have an auto pit speed limiter. I don't like to run it because it makes you go like a hair slower, maybe like a half a mile an hour. I would just rather try to control it with my right foot. Maybe see if I can gain just a smidge of speed or time. Auto engine starts when I get in the car. It's running. If you crash or sit there for a while, it'll fire back up. Auto wipers tear off. Driving line, this is great for beginners. If you click that, it'll show you the ideal line around the racetrack. But in my personal opinion, I do not always think it's necessarily the best line, because when you're following the line on track, you're not noticing some of the actual markers on the track, like the cones in the fence or the seams or cracks in the actual surface that may be useful as lift points or brake points, turn-in points, things of that nature. But it's definitely beneficial for just getting the general gist of driving. Pit exit line tells you where you can and cannot blend coming off a pit road. Brake assist, throttle assist, and your gearbox, H pattern or sequential. So I have both because I have a sequential shifter and an H pattern, or paddles on the steering wheel. So those are adjustable. But we're going to move on to the actual options here. Auto text chat. You can type what you want for these. I have some custom commands from when hosting events or running league events, so I'm not going to mess too much with those, but you can see I even have a hotkey for my Twitch channel. If we go into the car, you'll see that when I hit 9, it pops up in the text chat up above the screen. I have some other ones like much appreciated and box for when I'm pitting in a race. We go back to the options. These are all external displays. These will work with your Logitech G wheel and pedal set so that it lights up accordingly with the RPMs of the car. There's a text chat showing text messages for screen displays. I have all these set to graphical. It's just nice to see frame rate, some of the other settings based on my computer performance or my connection. We got the split time delta. This is, you can hit tab inside the car if you want to see that pop up. So you can tab, you can do all-time best lap, optimal, comparison, session best lap, session last lap, and it'll show you on a live ticker in the car as you're running. So those are some other features we can get into later when we start working on our racecraft and abilities behind the wheel, so to speak. Miscellaneous tab is just some other settings that I don't really mess with, honestly. I don't think I've ever touched these. I've seemed to always just leave them where they're at, just because they're for some external hardware and stuff that is kind of already covered in the sound settings. Graphics settings. Now, I have another video on this. My graphics setting video will be linked in the description below if you want to see what mine are, but I will say something important is to hover over settings and see what they do. iRacing does a great job of describing them below the box here. It says this option enables or disables rendering of dynamic tire data. So there's stuff like that that's super helpful to tell you whether or not you may need it or not. It'll definitely tell you if it takes away performance from your car or from your PC. Obviously, depending on the hardware you have in your computer will kind of decide for you how hard you could push the limits of your graphic settings. Everyone wants to run everything in max because that's how it looks the best. For me, while streaming and recording, I kind of need to tone some things down, even if it's something that I may kind of like just the look of aesthetically. It's not an option for me because I need the best performance for the stream while still trying to maintain the best quality for you all watching. So that's where I've kind of been left with these settings here. But if you watch that video I linked in the description below, those are some of my earlier graphic settings. And like I said, you can learn more about what each actual setting does by hovering over it, as with many other pages on iRacing. And then on top of that, depending on the hardware, you might have a better PC than me and you can push all these a lot harder, or maybe it's not as strong and you have to turn some of it down or off. Replay settings, you can adjust the performance or graphics of as well, just like here for the actual driving graphic settings. So these are all your replays. You could do ask to save replay on quit if you want to save, have the option to save a whole session before you leave. I don't like to do that because if I really want to replay, I'm going to go clip it on my own like you learned from me in my last video. Going on to sound, this is where you're going to put the simulation through whatever device you're using for audio. So if it's a headset or speakers, you're going to find that here. X-Audio 2 seems to be the newer encoding for that instead of direct sound, so I always stick with that. Surround sound, you've got voice chat options, so same thing. I have it going through my Astro 850s that you can save on with code Alfredo Pro, logitechg.com. But there's a mic option as well, which is my mic right here. Push to talk, and then louder, quieter. There's buttons here. So this is where you're going to program some hotkeys. So sound levels are adjusted here, and then there's controls. This is all your hotkeys, and all of these are going to be programmed like I'm about to show you with my push to talk. So you can program all these if you really want. I don't have enough buttons for this, but I have some essentials programmed to either my keyboard or my button box by my wheel. If you do get a Logitech G wheel and pedal set with code Alfredo Pro to save money at checkout, there's a bunch of buttons on there and some dials and knobs that you could use to turn up or down, traction control settings, volume settings, brake bias. You can have buttons to toggle headlights on or off, flash headlights, push to talk, and much more. Escape car. So the escape car settings over here, if you want to map a button, all you do is click on it, choose a control. I'm going to hit this red button. That's what I'm going to program. And then I hit done. And then done to leave the wizard. When I go to sound, push to talk, same thing. This is my push to talk button. We'll make sure it works. We're going to hop in the session, go right here, hold that button down. You could see it's working as I'm talking, so other people in the lobby or session will hear me. And then I'm going to hold this red button and exit my car. So that's how to scroll through or actually manage, kind of set all these different options in Sim, as well as map and program hotkeys. You definitely want to map buttons for your convenience while behind the wheel driving. I even have some for the black boxes. You could use the F keys on your keyboard, but I have ones right here that allow me to scroll through them. There's even arrows that you can use too if you need to. So we'll leave the car one more time and go to the garage settings. And this is going to be a separate video that we're going to hop into next up in episode 5 of iRacing for Beginners. I hope you enjoyed this one. I tried to keep it uncut the best I could and just go through it all together. Some of this may seem overwhelming at first, but I promise you there's a lot of it you probably won't even use regularly, or maybe if you do, once you get the settings where you like them, you probably won't touch them again for a very long time unless you have to, for some reason, reinstall iRacing, or maybe an update comes out and messes with some things, and you're always more than welcome to come back to this video in those cases or circumstances to adjust and get it right again. So thank you for your support. I hope you enjoyed this episode, this video. If you did, don't forget to drop a like, and I'll talk to you all later.